sports station.
Powered by Anajar Media Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Game Day, Uncensored, Postgame edition. Recapping the Fins game. Real reaction, real opinions, real talk for real fans. That sounds amazing. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Gameday Uncensored is sponsored by South Florida Lexus Dealers. Experience amazing by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka on game day? Pour me in, coach. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Make sure your next Cadillac is backed by Morse at Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Proud partner of the Miami Dolphins by JM Lexus. At JM Lexus, you'll always get the home team advantage. And by Williamson Automotive. Williamson is Miami.
Simply put, today the Miami Dolphins were the better team. Simply just better than the San Francisco 49ers. Dolphins go out there and do what they need to do, win the final home game of the season against those 49ers. Up and down the field offensively, the defense looked pretty good. The offense looked pretty good. Actually, somewhat of a historic day for many Dolphins. Devon Achane becomes the first Dolphin to rush for 500 yards and have 500 yards receiving in a single season. He also became the first Dolphin this year to rush for over 100 yards in a game. Now you're saying, no, definitely he's got a lot more than that. No, the passing yards and the receiving yards sometimes get all jungled and bumbled. And a couple of times he's gotten to 95, 96. Raheem Mostert had some games. Even Jalen Wright had some games in the 90s and the 80s. But no, the first 100-yard rusher of the year for the Miami Dolphins late in the season. Nonetheless, that happened also. More history being made. Tua Tagovailoa threw his 100th career passing touchdown today. He is just the fourth Dolphins player to do so, and Jonnu Smith having a tight end year for the Dolphins ages. Got his 74th reception, which is the most all-time. Then he eventually had his 75th. Most all-time in a single season by a tight end for the Miami Dolphins. And he also has the most yards a Dolphins tight end has had in a single season. Does that make you feel better about the offense this year? Or make you say, where are those numbers coming from? A little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, but you go out today, take care of business, and keep your playoff hopes slimly alive with 2 games left in the season. If you're leaving Hard Rock Stadium right now, or if you're leaving the bar, or if you're leaving a friend's house, or if you're just rocking out and hanging out and enjoying, thank you so much for joining me. I am Dan Day, along with Robert Grieper. We're going to be with you till 11 o'clock tonight. Want to hear from you, not just in the bad times, but in the good times. The number to call, 305-567-0560. That's 305-567-0560. Decent job by Tua Tagovailoa today. Great job by Devon Achane. He has just been a trooper all season long. And when you needed your troopers in a game like this, you got them. Big game from Devon Achane, rushing and also catching passes. Calais Campbell was missing for parts of the game, but at the end, he is the guy that put the hit on Brock Purdy as he was throwing, where Kader Kuhu comes up with a big interception to ice the game. Tyreek Hill, Grieper, let's be honest. Not a day for the highlight reel.
No, definitely not earning his paycheck.
That's a touchdown. I do understand that. But he had 3 drops. One of them in the end zone. I mean, he had some pretty bad drops. 2 of them, he just dropped them. One was lightly tipped, but still hit him in the hands. And what's the rule in the NFL if you're a receiver?
If it touches the hands, it should be a catch.
For one of the highest paid receivers of all time, and you are the leader of this team. He just looked out of sync for the most part today. Nonetheless, he did have some big catches in there. Like I said, he did get the touchdown. The Dolphins don't want to nitpick too much because they did exactly what they needed to do, exactly what I thought they would do. And you know what? You might have exactly this happening the next 2 games of the season, and we'll just have to see where it goes. Browns are now on the horizon. It's going to be an afternoon, not night game next week, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Cleveland. That might help with the weather a little bit. And then you get an afternoon game, supposedly January 5th, against the New York Jets. That's going to be a cold one. Nonetheless, this is the Dolphins' chance to finish the season strong, to change some narratives, and at worst, if they don't get into the playoffs, once again, they are still mathematically alive, maybe they can get over that mental hump of winning in cold weather, winning on the road, maybe not winning against winning teams, but nonetheless, maybe getting all that done today. Big win, maybe a big step in that direction. Also, want to give some big time kudos to Chop Robinson, a guy who we just weren't patient with. First couple of games of the year, we said, oh, Mr. Get Close but never get there. That's the story of his career. Well, he gets there now. Another sack for Chop Robinson towards the end of the game. Of course, you can't not talk about this defense without talking about Zach Sealer, another sack for him. And of course, he is the real captain of this defense. The team, I thought, played well today. Like I said, you can nitpick some things. Tyreek Hill dropping a couple of passes, but for the most part, throughout the game, was there ever a point, Robert Grieber, that you thought San Francisco was the better team and would actually win against these Miami Dolphins?
I never thought that throughout the entire game. The Niners were playing exactly how you thought they were going to play, being how many men they were down already. I mean, the injury problems that they've had this year, they're substantial. I mean, you think the Dolphins have had problems? They take it to a whole nother level in San Francisco right now. And you look, they were dealing with third-string backups on their offensive line. The Dolphins, luckily, I think that was probably the strength of the team right now, is getting back Win on right guard and getting both Armstead and Lamb back today. That helped out because, as you saw and you mentioned earlier, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher this entire year. By getting that offensive line right today, that opened things up for the running game and gave you that balanced offense that you've been looking for the past 6 or 7 weeks now.
Right, especially your first-string big nasties, absolutely helps. Teron Armstead makes a huge difference. And let's give credit where credit's due. Much maligned. Well, we'll get to Cater Cahoon later because he's been much maligned throughout his career here. But Ian Leichenberg benched, but he did part-time play today. And I thought when he was in the game, he did a pretty good job. And the offensive line looked pretty darn good when Liam Eichenberg was in there today. So maybe sometimes that's the fire he needed underneath his belly or under his booty or whatever else you want to say. Liam Eichenberg not absolutely terrible today. Sometimes a little benching does a little good. And Tua Tagovailoa, once again, he has destroyed one narrative, which is he's two-tapped Tua. The second he has to tap the ball twice, he doesn't know where to go. He has been very good in the pocket this year. He has been very good going through his progressions. And this team did very good also on third downs, third and short. They didn't do so good on third and long, but then again, that's the averages. You're going to do better on third and short than third and long, and they did at the end of the game to pretty much ice you. 305-567-0560. Call in and let us know what's happening. 560 WQAM. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Robert, calling from the 305.
Bring it, Robert.
Hey, listen, man. I want to give a shout-out to the O-line. And I want to give a bigger shout out to the hardest working man at the radio station, Mr. Dan Day. I love you, brother. I put the radio at 6 in the morning, you're there. I put it at 12 o'clock at night, you're there.
Thank you.
Just want to give you a shout out.
Thank you so much about that, Roger. Well, look, man, I love what I do, and I love people like you and doing things like that. I thought the offensive line, you get Teron Armstead back, you get those Isaiah Wynn, you have all those guys. Maybe you think Liam Eichenberg maybe had a little fire underneath him. You know, he saw I'm getting benched. Things are starting to look a little bleak. I better step it up. I thought he stepped up a good amount today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That offensive line makes it all happen. Thank you so much for that, Roger. We appreciate that. Going back to the phone lines, 305-567-0560, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is George from South Carolina, 864.
All right, George, what's on your mind?
I know Dolphin fans. I'm a Dolphin fan. I grew up in Miami. I moved to South Carolina. I still watch them from here. I know it was a good win, but these fans need to really know that not to believe too much in this team. This team is not built right. This owner needs to get rid of the GM and get himself a GM, somebody like.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I accidentally hung up on him. Please call back. I really apologize for that. Hit the wrong button on the end thing. So 305-567-0560. Back to the phone lines. 560 WQAM. I know that sounded really weird, like I'm trying to, like Gestapo or, shut somebody up because they're talking bad about Chris Greer. But no, I'm not. Please call back. I apologize for that. 305-567-0560. But back to the phone lines right now. 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
Hey, this is Sean, the punt man.
Hey,
I'm the
Sean.
one who punt. How you doing, bro?
I'm thinking about Funky Buddha right now, man. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy. I'm happy to celebrate.
And they did what they're supposed to do. They did what we thought they were going to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I want to ask you this: what is the scenario for them getting into the playoffs? What has to happen?
A lot.
Ooh, so, of course, they have to win out. The Ravens are off the board. The Ravens would have had to lose out. They won yesterday. It really is going to come down to a lot of the Chargers and the Broncos kind of have to both. Well, either one of them has to lose out their next two games. They have very easy schedules ahead of them. And the Colts also have the tiebreaker, so the Colts need to lose another game. So you need the scenario of Broncos losing their last two and the Colts losing one of the last two, or Chargers losing their last two and the Colts losing one of their last two, and in combination. And to make it easier for you, or make it easier or harder, or maybe back you up, I'm going to tell you what some of these guys' schedules look like, and you and I, Sean, might be able to go out there and compete. The Colts get the Giants next week. I don't know if you've been following them this year. Whew.
Yeah. Ooh.
And the Colts get the Jaguars in the final week, and you know what the Jaguars can bring to the table. So the Colts have to lose to either the Giants and the Jaguars, or both. But no, it gets better because now we got to look at the Chargers, who they're playing to finish out the season. The Chargers are going to get the Patriots and the Raiders. They have to lose both those games, the Patriots and the Raiders.
Shit.
Hey, hold on, we're not done yet. We're not done yet, Sean. The Broncos actually could lose the last two games. They have the Bengals and the Chiefs, but you never know. The Chiefs in the last game of the season, if they tied up the first seed, there's no reason to play anybody because they're going to have basically 2 weeks off. So, yeah, it's slim, but hey, go out there. All you can do is take care of your business today, and that's exactly what the Dolphins did. Yeah, you have to be proud of the performance today. I thought throughout the game they were the better team.
Yeah, man. I didn't doubt that they were going to win that game. But you know, hey, I think everybody's playing for their job next season. Man.
It's true.
The way it's looking.
That's one of those things. People think guys want to punt on the season. The players don't, because they want to put tape out there and they want to get out there and they want to get raises. Like they want to stay on the team or they want to make another team. So that's why you see teams sometimes you're like, why have they thrown in the towel? It's because they actually do have a lot to play for.
Man, you think Tyreek gonna be here next year?
Those 3 drops today after that tweet earlier this week where he put, "Come on, let's go. I want to go coach." He said that it was about he wants to go coach at a different level at a different time in his life. Maybe it was calling out Mike McDaniel. Maybe it was calling for a trade. I think it's.
I'm getting tired of that trolling. I'm getting a little tired of that trolling stick he be playing. Like, I'm just trolling. I'm just kidding. No, man, I don't believe it. I'm not buying it.
I think it's a 50-50 thing with Tyreek Hill next year. But it really kind of seems how this year finishes. I mean, if they finish on a 3-game win streak and it's another winning record and they have people locked down and it's going to be kind of maybe hard to trade Tyreek with the big contract, I think.
Yeah.
So man, I'll tell you, man.
It's like yes, sir.
I'm just telling you, you might see a lot of the same next year. When I say the same, a lot of familiar faces. Now, I'm not going to say familiar play, but you might get a lot of familiar faces. And when I say familiar faces, I don't just mean Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, you know 2 other names. You go ahead and give me the 2 other names, Sean.
Well, Chris Greer and Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, man, I want them to win, but I really don't want to win. But I want them to win for the players, but in the city of Miami, I want them to lose so we can get a new GM. But then again, we got an owner that just pacifies, man, and just is really soft. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but Sean, it's like I love her. I hope the best for her, but I wish she would break up with me. But I can't break up with her. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, man.
This is the thing, and I'll warn you about this. I feel as though, and I could be wrong, and some people agree and disagree with me. I feel as though Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are pretty much tied together, because if you get a new GM, he or she is going to want to cook with their own groceries, because they're not going to want to have another coach, other beholden and not beholden to them. You fire Mike McDaniel, well then, I mean, why would you fire Mike McDaniel and not Chris Greer? It's interesting though, but Stephen Ross does some strange things, man. He does things that not every owner normally does.
Yeah, man, but he's so patient though, man. I mean,
sometimes a little too patient.
Yes, Yes, bro. But hey, thanks for the call, man. Go Dolphins.
Sean, great hearing from you as always. I met Sean actually at Funky Buddha one of the Mondays where I did trivia, and he was really a great guy. And actually had some really cool pictures. Grouper, you're a big music fan. He's worked in the music industry. Pictures, literally, him and just Ozzy Osbourne backstage talking, stuff like that. It's just wonderful, man. Anytime people have stories like that, sports or no sports, that's a cool thing right there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, especially because you're not going to be talking to Ozzy Osbourne backstage anymore.
So 305-567-0550. I think we have George back from South Carolina. George, is that you?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I did a bad job. I accidentally hung up on you. Please restart where you were at, and please just tell us what you said.
I love your show. I was just really talking and saying I'm a Dolphins fan. I was raised in Miami. I moved up here in South Carolina. I still watch them every single day, even though they're good or bad. But we are not a playoff team. This team needs to be built like everybody's talking in the trenches. Why do we want to go to the playoffs to get humiliated by Buffalo again? We need a GM who's going to come in here and build the trenches and make this team a Super Bowl team like Kansas City, like Detroit, like Buffalo, like the good teams. We need Greer gone. He needs to go. It's enough with these fans. Don't the owner listen to the fans? Doesn't he listen to these podcasts and all these shows and knows that the fans want Greer gone? It's enough with this.
Well,
Enough.
George, did you see before the game near Hard Rock Stadium, someone bought a flying banner that said, Mr. Ross, Chris Greer is the problem, fix it.
Yeah, even the Jets, who suck. I hate them. I can't stand them. And they let their GM go and fire the coach.
Yeah.
So why can't we do the same thing? These fans pay a lot of money to go to the stadium to watch mediocre. The fans are tired. We all around are tired of watching mediocre teams. We want a Super Bowl before we leave this earth or whatever. We want to see a Super Bowl.
George, it's not fair that you haven't had a playoff win in 24 years. Also, look, the Super Bowl. Give me a playoff win.
Yes, give me a playoff win. But that comes up to the owner. He has to say, what the heck? Somebody has to tickle his ear and say, we're not winning, the fans ain't happy, or we need change. Something is going on here. I mean, he's 85 years old?
Yeah.
He needs to. I'm assuming he wants to win a Super Bowl before his lifetime ends. So somebody up there has to tickle his ear and say, hey, the fans are fed up with Greer. He needs to go. The fans are disgusted with him. He hasn't done nothing in 9 or 10 years that he's been here with his franchise.
George,
and we got 10 picks this year. He's going to mess that up.
If he messes the picks up, and once again, we did look at some of the stats that some of his draft picks have contributed nothing to this current team. Absolutely nothing to this team. So that is a good point that you bring up. And people are frustrated. I understand, but I do get this a lot. I get messages and I get these phone calls a lot on this show, especially of former season ticket holders saying that they are not renewing their season tickets because they can no longer put their hard-earned money and their efforts into an organization they feel as though isn't matching their hard-earned money and efforts.
That's what the fans have to do. Boycott and not go to the stadium, and maybe he'll listen. That's what the fans need to do, or stand in front of the facility and picket or something, so he can listen and hear the fans. The fans are tired of it. It's baloney what he's doing. Baloney what he's doing to the fans out here.
Yeah, George, a lot of people echo the sentiments that you say right there. And if you're saying, well, why would you boycott there? Well, look what's happening in Washington, in D.C. People for a long time picketed, fought. Eventually, they got some change made. They got a good draft pick in Jaden Daniels. Totally different team, by the way. They beat who I think is the best team in the NFL right now. They went out there and they beat the Eagles. No, minus Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett played most of the time, but still. Yeah, I mean, you have a right to be frustrated, and you have a right to have your voice hopefully heard. And that's why we give you an open forum to speak out loud. And for the pressure to be out there, we repost this on YouTube, and we let them know, because as much as people say that coaches and players are oblivious to what's going on, they are not 100% oblivious to things that are going on because you cannot live in that type of a vacuum. And I know Stephen Ross is a very wealthy man, but he watches the news. He has people that stop him in the halls. He has coworkers. It's impossible to ignore everything. So continue to have your voice heard. And I sound like I'm getting out and rock the vote, but I'm not. I'm just saying this Dolphins team though does get the win today. There are some positives. It looks like they're starting to get on the same page. Everybody together. Maybe too late. We'll see. We did the playoff scenario, but we're still taking your calls. 305-567-0560. Robert Griefer, Dan Day. Game Day Uncensored comes back after this on 560 WQAM.
on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Dolphins win today against the San Francisco 49ers 29-17. Pretty good game all around. Tua Tagovailoa over 200 passing yards. Devon Achane, our first 100-yard rusher of the season. He also had 70 yards receiving. Defense only gives up 17 points, gets some big turnovers. Dolphins mathematically still alive to make the playoffs, although very long odds. They have to win out, and they've got two very winnable games left on the schedule against the Cleveland Browns next week, 4 o'clock in Cleveland, and then against the New York Jets in New York at around 1 o'clock. That is going to be on January 5th. If they do win out but do not make the playoffs, is it enough to save Chris Grier or maybe Mike McDaniel's job, especially Chris Grier? That's a question a lot of Dolphins fans are asking right now. We want to hear from you. 305-567-0560. Let's go back to the phone lines. 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, 305. There's a couple of things. One, this franchise has made mistakes over the years, over and over and over. Do you have a time that it's like destiny? The Dolphins get to a fourth, they always choose the wrong one. They passed on Breeze twice, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and even Herbert. Now, the worst thing could happen to the Dolphins is win the next 2 games, because they're going to argue, well, Tua was hurt and this and that. We could have done this, we could have done that. That's the worst thing. And let's be honest today. If it wasn't for Pearsall, the San Francisco 49ers, the stupid penalties that they did, they cost them 2 touchdowns. One, as they were forced to make a field goal on a first and goal. The second time they missed the field goal, again they missed the first goal because there was a holding penalty. 11 penalties for 90 yards, which feed the narrative. The Dolphins beat the bad team. San Francisco is a bad team, and they beat them. Against good teams, they can't do anything. And I'm totally disappointed with Holland. I mean, he wished he couldn't block. And on his contract year, he played like this. I'm sure probably they're going to give him a whole bunch of money because, that's the way Dolphins operate. But I think the worst thing that could happen if they win the rest out, they finish 9-8, and unfortunately, Chris Grier and they be back. And this guy has proven all the time that he's been here, he has not put up an offensive line, which is to protect the quarterback. Tua is a serviceable quarterback, is a good quarterback, but he's not a quarterback to carry the team on his back. That's a fact. And he has not been able to fix this team all of this time since 2009. He's been with the Dolphins, and he's been the owner of Raw. Hey, listen, Mr. Raw, you ain't got that many years left. Make a switch. Change. Go in another direction. You fired Adam Gase after 3 years. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear they had injuries. So did so many other teams. But if you were drafted correctly, at least somebody. I mean, they laughed at us when the reporters brought up the offensive line. They laughed. Oh, you guys are worried about what we are not. Well, guess what? And you don't have a backup quarterback? I mean, Skylar Thompson was your pick. These are all decisions made by Chris Grier, and he has to pay for it.
Yeah, that is one of those things. Failure to plan is planning to fail. Although I will say this to play devil's advocate, Chris Grier can go. If at the end of the year there's some questions about his job, as Stephen Ross had said, look at this team on paper. Tua Tagovailoa, top 10 quarterback in the league. Look at our receivers. Tyreek Hill, quote-unquote, the best receiver in the league. Jalen Waddle, the top 10 receiver in the league. Jonnu Smith, look, good choice by me. One of the top tight ends in the league this year. Broke records for the Dolphins this year. The offensive line, we know Tua gets it out fast, so we didn't prioritize that as much, although I still have Teron Armstead, who's all-pro. On the defensive end, I got Jalen Phillips, who I drafted. Javon Holland, he's having coming off year, but for many times he's been rated as a high safety. I've got Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer, who I found and I signed. I've also got Calais Campbell that I found as an older player, and I got him over in a career. On paper, this team is good. I can give the chef the best ingredients I can give the chef everything he or she needs, but at the end of the day, they have to execute their recipes. Now, I'm not saying Chris Greer should skate because we looked up a stat where some of the guys he's drafted, they're selling Pop-Tarts right now, but he can go to Stephen Ross and say, look at what I have. Look at what I've gotten. And, well, you haven't drafted well. The NFL is not about that as much anymore. It's about free agency. It's about getting players. And some of the guys I have drafted, I've hit on. Some of the guys I missed. And you bring up they passed up on Drew Brees twice. The whole league passed up on Drew Brees outside of the Saints. So I do understand that. And the Dolphins and Nick Saban should never skate for what they did. They pay for that. But other guys, why they pass up on Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson was a very late first-round pick. It wasn't like just the Dolphins passed up on him. Now, I did see that Enigma documentary on Aaron Rodgers where we took Ronnie Brown with the second overall pick and let Aaron Rodgers keep slipping. That one didn't age very well. But, yeah, you're going to miss on some picks. But I don't know what the answer is right now. Is it Chris Greer? Is it Mike McDaniel? Is it both? Is it Stephen Ross selling the team? All I know is we won tonight. We still have a chance to win. And if we win out, I don't see a lot of vast changes personnel-wise.
Well, the thing that I look at this roster is that I'm wondering the formulation of the roster itself, along with the coaching staff. Is it a good fit, the two of them together? And that's kind of where I look at is that this team went from Brian Flores, which was a hard-ass coach, toughness. You had some grit there. You had your quarterback who was in the doghouse because of him. And then you went and decided, we're going to go totally the opposite direction with Mike McDaniel and go with a players coach who's going to have, I hate to say it, softer players because they're not going out there and doing the things that Brian Flores was wanting with his team. You went totally the opposite direction because of what was going on with the roster. You had Stephen Ross going out there trying to bring in Sean Payton and Tom Brady here, which cost you a first and a third as well. Boy, would you like to have those two draft picks back right now. So the problem is that you went out and you had a roster that was put together, and now you've totally gone the opposite way and trying to get rid of all the players that were there beforehand. And now you're bringing in Tyreek, who, I'm sorry, I kind of believe is going on to the downside of his career right now. And you just gave him a long-term deal. You have Waddle, who's been injured a lot lately. You have Tua, who's been injured. You go out and you have no backup quarterback on this roster, as the caller stated. You could have drafted Brock Purdy instead of Skylar Thompson. Don't want to go there, do we? Yeah, but he's going to be a long-term signed quarterback with the 49ers because in that system he fits. So that's one thing there. But and obviously we're Skylar right now. Well, so, but the thing that I look at is right now you have a bunch of aging vets that you gave long-term money to. And right now, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And that's the problem that a lot of Dolphin fans are seeing right now is where is that light at the end of the tunnel? This was a program that was looking to go to the Super Bowl this year after what happened last year. And where has it gone? We've regressed instead of progressed.
Because we're scared that we're going to get next year's the real put up or shut up year. And how long are we going to do this? And one more question that begs to be asked, and we're going to hear from my cousin Vladimir Lewisson, who's actually at the stadium getting some interviews. And he asks this all the time. Are you drafting for you to play in your division? Because you go finesse, and to be honest, kind of a black and blue division that you're going to have to play cold weather games at the end of the season against physical teams that want to grind it out on defense, and you go finesse. So you go the opposite direction. Maybe that's a fundamental mistake.
I mean, after seeing the Chiefs game last year, I mean, you went up to Kansas City, you played Buffalo at the end of the year, and where did this team go? It shrunk in the time that they needed to succeed. Unfortunately, that's what happened.
Cole, it isn't to his arm. I think it's that when the moment gets big, we need to get bigger. And now we haven't made big plays, big times, signature moves. That's the next progression. But 670-560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Ebad from Hialeah.
Oh, good to hear from you, Ebad. How's things going?
Everything is good, man. Yeah, we got the win, but man, I'm still not satisfied.
Okay,
I
why
don't know,
not?
man. This feeling. Because I was in Houston last week, man. I see all these fans. We travel well, and this is what we get every year. I go to at least 2-3 games a year, and it's 30% Dolphins fans there. Usually 25% probably flying in, 5-10% rest of them from there, I guess. But you show up, man, and this is what we get. Look at Chris Greer. He's the main problem. You let all your drafted players walk. Christian Wilkinson, AVG, Brandon Jones, and you replace them with guys like Poyer. Come on. And then you're telling me we're building from outside in. You're supposed to build from inside out.
That is
And this is
fundamental, man.
horrible.
That is fundamental.
Yeah. So I know people are blaming Tua, McDaniels. It's not their fault. It's the
Yes, it is.
GM's fault.
No.
McDaniels is trying to make you go to the playoffs every year since he's been here. What has he done wrong?
A lot.
There's no O-line, or we have no running game. Our running game is our screen game.
That is
Do you
true.
think Tua has time to throw those deep launches this year? No. That's why we need to get rid of GM and let the next GM decide whether to give Tua and McDaniels one more year. And then we'll see to go from there. But the biggest problem is Chris Greer. And all these fans that I've been hearing are correct.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, the offensive line needs to be addressed in the offseason. And I don't care how pretty of toys you see in the first and second round. Sometimes you might just have to say, we need to address some needs and not just keep getting guys that are quote-unquote fast. Because last I checked, Jalen Wright's not doing too much. I'm not trying to pile on him. But, you know, if you have a bunch of Ferraris, but you don't have a truck and you need to move one weekend, what are you going to do?
That's true.
We
Look
got
at Chris Greer since we drafted Tua. How many players has he drafted that made made a difference on this team? Probably like 4 out of 40 players, maybe.
Yeah, we've looked at the numbers are bad. The number that's the number he can't hide behind. His draft picks have
Especially
not made big
the
impacts.
first 3 rounds. It's horrible.
Yeah, I know. I understand. He cannot hide behind some of the draft. Cam Smith can't see the field. Patrick Paul's a project, quote unquote, but you never know if he's going to see the field. Jalen Wright did not see the field tonight. And that's just this past draft. And I see Noah Iguanagani playing for the Commanders now. That was a mistake. You passed up on Penei Sewell. You did a lot of other things that were very questionable. And that's why Chris Greer is going to have to answer for those things. But we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Take one more phone call before we take a break. 305-567-0560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yo, it's your boy Duty. Where you at?
Duty. I'm good, man. We got a win. And you know what? We're still alive. That's where I'm at, man. Feeling all right. How about you? Where you at?
Oh, I'm feeling good, baby. We're still in it, so obviously not really looking good. But correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say Jalen Waddle's the top 10 receiver in the NFL?
I consider him a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He's paid like a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, why are we paying him? I still don't understand why we paid him. What was it, $28 million a year? Okay, if he's top 10, who's the first above him and who's the first below him? Because I'm curious where you put him at.
I mean, I'll put him at like number 10 if I put him anywhere. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's too hard to tell, and that's the question a lot of people are having now. Is like, is it time to possibly, with all the shenanigans kind of wearing thin with us, Tyreek Hill dropping 3 passes today that he shouldn't have dropped, and his numbers declining?
Yeah,
is it time to possibly say, we're paying 2 guys way too much money to be a number 1 and 2? Maybe move on from Tyreek Hill and promote Jalen Waddle and see if he is worthy of the money that we're paying him.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, man. It just does not seem like he's productive enough to be earning that kind of money. I'm surprised that we actually extended him this offseason. I don't think he was worth it. He dropped a lot of balls. He seems to get injured every other game. I just don't think he's even close to a top 10. I mean, I maybe like on the fringes of top 20. There's some really good receivers out there. And if you haven't noticed, it seems like the receivers that are coming out are really solid. Like, there's some young receivers that are always doing well, and it just doesn't seem like that's worth that kind of money. And obviously, yeah, Hill was really good last year and hasn't gotten a lot of action this year. And obviously those drops, like, you can blame Tua or you can blame Tyreek either way. But, it's just, Johnny's my guy now, though. Look at this guy, huh?
Unbelievable, man. I watched him with the Falcons kill teams like the Saints for years, and I was excited to get him at the beginning of the season. A slow start, but, man, he has really, really come on. I do want to ask you this, Duty. If it comes to a point where we have to get rid of one of our receivers, whether it's Tyreek or Jalen Waddle, who would you like to see us move on from, and who would you like to see us keep?
Dude, that's a tough one. Only because Tyreek still, I mean, he's just looks like he's taken a bit of a step back. And it's obviously, time is kind to no one, Dan Day. You know this.
I know it. I feel it every morning.
But still, I mean, Waddle just doesn't seem like he's worth that kind of money. Hopefully, if someone else is willing to take him on, I mean, I think he's still got some kind of trade value. I don't think anyone would trade us anything good for Tyreek Hill at this point with how much money he's making and how old he is. So, honestly, I think I'd have to pick Waddle to move on from.
Yeah, that contract is kind of an albatross around the Dolphins' neck because that is a big contract for an aging wide receiver that this year has kind of put up a few question marks on and off.
And Dan, we could have kept Van Ginkel and Wilkins for the amount of money we were paying him.
Van Ginkel had another sack today, by the way. I saw that on TV in a very close game.
He's an all-star, man. And I missed him. I wish we still had him. But appreciate what you guys are doing. Love it. Happy holidays. Love you guys.
Happy holidays, duty. My duty right there. Going to take some more phone calls. 305-567-0560 next on Game Day Uncensored 560 WQAM.
Text Lexus dealers. Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
How are you feeling about the Dolphins winning 29-17 against the San Francisco 49ers? Looked like the better team today. Defense looked good. Tua looked, for the most part, sharp. Tyreek Hill not so much, but Jonnu Smith. Of course, Devon Achane having a breakout sophomore year, although his rookie year is pretty special. You get a big win. On one side, you're 7-8. You're still barely alive in the playoffs. But at the same time, you give maybe Chris Greer a little more breathing room, although people were flying planes over with banners saying that Chris Greer needed to be, maybe, not for lack of a better term, fired. A winning streak at the end of the season might be enough to save his job. Kind of a thud at the end of the season might not be enough to save a lot of people's jobs. Everyone's playing for a job, it seems, this time of the year. My job is just to talk to you. 305-567-0560. Back to the phone lines, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up, dude? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great now, man. It's Christmas time. It's Hanukkah time. It's Kwanzaa time. It's what other times is it? It's Festivus for the rest of us. It's Krampus, and the Dolphins won.
It's all those times, right?
Oh, and one more thing.
You know,
I hate the San Francisco 49ers my whole life. They have been a bugaboo for all my teams, so I'm so happy the Dolphins beat the 49ers tonight, too.
You know, I want to say this because I've been listening to your show, and, you know, we won the game, but you listen to the deep-rooted skepticism and cynicism of people calling it. You know, I liken the Miami Dolphins to like a used car lot, you know, where year after year I come back to your car lot and I buy a car from you and it runs for a year or so and then it breaks down. It's a lemon. And what people are saying to you is just that, you know what, I buy your cars, but they're lemons, bro. They're lemons. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is that people don't believe what they see. They're saying to themselves, okay, you won this game. Okay? And San Francisco got problems too, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco, you know, all these people are asked to get paid, this, that, and other thing. And they're not a very good football team without all those people being hurt and stuff like that. But that being said, you know, and you've got all these used car salesmen, the Roses, the Cephalo's, all these people that are used car salesmen out there constantly selling. And people are just like, I'm not buying it anymore. And okay, and you get rid of Greer, and some people are saying you get rid of, you know, the head coach, you know, and that's what it is, man. I mean, we won the football game tonight. But look at all the people that are calling. Listen to all the people that are calling in.
Yeah, we're not celebrating very much, it seems like.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's not a celebratory mood. They're looking at the fact that they've been buying lemons for the last 25 years.
Oh, and remember, there was a point in the season where we were 2-6, and now some people, I'm guessing, are feeling like it's kind of lipstick on a pig, a little too
exactly.
We're gonna go out there and, oh, but we won the last 3 games of the year. We're moving in the right direction. It's like, yeah, but for 24 years, you haven't won a playoff game.
Exactly, and that's what people now are starting to get the big picture and saying, is I'm a fan. I want my team to win. My team is the Miami Dolphins. Okay, but you sold me so many lemons over the years until I want you to sell me something that's really good.
You've been burnt too many times. I mean? You've been burnt too many times. And there's always next year and next year. The only other problem with this is there's only one.
Oh, we're going to do a reset. Oh, we're going to do a rebuild. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do that.
If someone's, if Tua stays healthy, if the offensive line stays healthy.
If my aunt had, you know what, she'd be my uncle. You know, I mean, you know, I mean, so that's how I see it. It's a used car lot, dude.
I can understand where you come from. I understand a lot of things in, you know, the sports world. There's only one real winner every year. There's only one Super Bowl champion every year. That's understandable.
Correct.
You can't win it every year. Heck, no one's ever won it 3 years in a row. I'm not upset about that. What I'm upset is, for 24 years, you haven't found a way to give the fan base one playoff win, 1 week.
You know what? There's an old saying too. Even a blind squirrel eventually finds a nut.
Yeah, and like they say, even the sun shines on the dog's ass once a day. Like
Exactly.
But-
I'll hang up and listen to you, bro.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I understand the whole. Oh, well, why don't we win the Super Bowl? Super Bowls don't grow on trees. Trust me. I don't think the fan base is frustrated about that. I think the fan base is frustrated about the little things like give us more winning seasons, give us wins against quality opponents, give us a couple playoff wins, give us a nice run. That's frustrating.
Well, the thing is that this fan base, was so upset with Don Shula back in the day that they wanted him out because they weren't happy with getting to the playoffs every year. They wanted to win a Super Bowl. So that's why we brought in Jimmy Johnson. And ever since then, the consistency of being a winner every year was gone. Maybe that puts you even backwards.
And then what do you say? Well, let's fire everybody again. And
Exactly. And so many people are, calling for Tua to be out. Well, here's the thing. What's the answer then? Because Tua is a good quarterback. Not great. He's good. But the problem is that you could be a lot worse than what you have with Tua right now.
and we should draft Cam Ward. We're going to be in no position, especially after today's win, to be anywhere near drafting Cam Ward, to be near any of these upper echelon coming out of college quarterbacks. You need viable answers. And right now, your best answer and your best way to win is quarterback-wise, at least for me, Tua Tagovailoa.
He is the only answer that you have right now. Dolphin fans need to be resigned to the fact that Tua is your quarterback for at least the next 2 years. At least the next 2 years. After that, the contract you could probably work your way out of or whatever at that point. But the problem is that he's not the biggest problem with this team right now. You have a lot bigger problems on this roster. Exactly. Do you want to go back to when Tua wasn't the quarterback? Because trust me. That was painful. Exactly. You have what you have with Tua. That gives you a good foundation. The problem is what's surrounding him is the problem right now. And that's what they have to go out and fix. Big time. What is it? One win against teams over 500? I mean, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Cold weather games. And I know I'm arguing now that he's not elite. He is a top tier. Depending on how you break down the tiers, he is a high tier quarterback, and he is our quarterback. And if you think he's no good, and you think we should cut him, trade him, you're going to go down a very dark road that I cannot tell you it's going to be brighter at the end of the tunnel. So we'll take some more phone calls. We'll hopefully hear from Mike McDaniel and Kuzan Vladimir Luso was in the locker room, maybe an interview from one of the players. And we'll talk to Vlad, see kind of the feeling of the vibe of the building and the organization as we get into the second hour of 3 next here on Gameday Uncensored 560 WQAM.
I'm Nikola Jovic.
No,
And he can.
no, because then the Jets will be like, we don't want you. It's
Yeah,
gonna have to be.
But then he screws you over because the amount of money that he's still going to get paid.
No, his contract was only 2 years.
No, but if you cut him, you're still paying him what 30 mil?
I gotta look at it. We're probably gonna take a cap hit, but it's not as
You're
bad
going to take a
as-
huge cap hit.
That sounds amazing. AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Gameday Uncensored is sponsored by South Florida Lexus Dealers. Experience amazing by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka on game day. Pour me in, coach. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Make sure your next Cadillac is backed by Morse at Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Proud partner of the Miami Dolphins by JM Lexus. At JM Lexus, you'll always get the home team advantage. And by Williamson Automotive. Williamson is Miami.
The good news is you defeat the San Francisco 49ers 29-17. You are now 7-8 on the season if you're the Miami Dolphins. You keep your playoff hopes alive. More good news. Devon Achane is a certified star in this league and your workhorse. He was drafted by Chris Greer, by the way, in the third round. Nonetheless, after Cam Smith, you found out Jonnu Smith this year so far. Great tight end, maybe one of the best that's ever put on a Dolphins uniform. You found out that Calais Campbell can still go. You found out that you hit on Zach Sealer, and you got him at a pretty good price. Found out this year that Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill not lived up to expectations so far this year. You found out, good though, Tua Tagovailoa really is your quarterback because the 4 games he sat out. Ugh. You found out the offensive line, not so great. You found out backup quarterback situation, really, really bad. What else are we going to find out this season? Got 2 more games to find out, and then laissez les bon temps rouler, as we say in the Cajun community. Let the good times roll. We're doing that till 11 o'clock with Robert Griever. My cousin Vladimir Lewis is around here somewhere. We're going to try to get him in here in just a minute. We're going to hear from Mike McDaniel in just a little while, but want to hear from you. 305-567-0560, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, hi, good evening. Hey, I was calling. I mean, obviously, I'm calling from South Florida. A Dolphins win feels good. The last caller, I think, hit the nail on the head. He actually took all my points, so kudos to him. But I think this season has been a little bit of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, we saw the bad construction of the roster. I feel the fact when Tua went down that we didn't have a solid backup was really, really bad. And I think that this upcoming season, it needs to be just like rebuilding the trenches, right? Like you guys were saying, Tua is the guy right now. If we want to start firing everybody, we're going to go into that bleak mid-2000s rebuild mode, and I don't think anyone's ready for that. I think we have some pieces. I like Anthony Weaver. I think the defense has been better than it was last year with Fangio. I think there's these pieces on our defense that we can build around. I'm more of the half-glass full kind of Dolphins fan. I mean, this season has been poo-poo, but, you know, the optimism is that, you know, we did kind of come together towards the stretch, and we got to see what Tua's done. You know, I mean, I don't know what else we can do besides build it up, but, you know, at the end of the day, go Dolphins, and, you know, today was a good win. And and it comes back to a couple of plays that we could have had, you know, especially with Buffalo. We went toe-to-toe with Buffalo, in Buffalo on a crazy field goal, and it's just been these little plays. But, I mean, I think overall, like, if we fire Greer for sure, or just rebuild the offense, rebuild the team. I think of Channing Tindall. I forgot that guy was even on the team.
He's barely on special teams.
Inactive. And it's just that we don't hit on those draft picks. And I think about it, like I look at these other teams that hit on these draft picks that, you know, these gems. We haven't had a gem besides Achane. I mean, Chop's looking good.
Yeah, Chop's looking really good.
Chop's looking good. You know, we have these undrafted guys that we somehow like land. You know, Hand is he's okay. I mean, for what it is, but you know, I feel like those second round draft picks that we've whiffed on, I think are like kind of the ones that have been hurting us a little bit, to be honest with you. Because that's the talent that you're not gonna
that's some talent that you're expecting to infuse in the roster that doesn't even see the field. And I think that's been a little bit at this phase where we were in the build with our pieces, and then you expect those draft picks to contribute a little bit, and then you have nothing coming from those guys. I think that's kind of been honestly like our big downfall with Greer, to be honest with you.
Contribute or at least add some depth. Sometimes they don't even do that. That is tough. But this year we have found out some things, but it's also left us with a lot of question marks.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with this roster. If you look at it, is you're paying so much money between Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Ramsey. The problem is that those draft picks should be the guys that are going to be supplementing the rest of your roster and actually going to be starting at a lot of positions. You don't have those players contributing, unfortunately. The draft picks that he made, I mean, look at the secondary right now. I mean, Javon Holland, who was supposed to be a great draft pick, I know he's playing hurt out there, but for a second-round draft pick, he should be performing a lot better. You just don't have at your other corner position. That was supposed to be Cam Smith. That was supposed to be Noah Igbinoghene. Those were supposed to be your other corner on that other side. Never happened. And that's where the biggest problem with this roster is that these draft picks that you did draft high, unfortunately, never came through for you. And that is where you have poor roster construction, which is on Chris Greer.
Some have won enough, or has he lost too many? Chris Greer is going to find out. We're going to see how the rest of the season plays out. 305-567-0560, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Trey, man. I'm calling from Greenville, South Carolina, from Miami. Before I get this off real quick, I know you guys are tied in the country doing real tough. Man, ever since the pandemic, they don't have country do up here anymore, man. I'll see you guys, man. See if they can get back up here for me. I'm just my hop gun.
I'll see what I can do with the hop gun and the funky Buddhas for you for sure. No problem. What you got on the Dolphins?
On the Dolphins, man, I am on the fence. I want Greer and the game both gone. This offense, I think, is holding to a back. I wasn't a big fan of him, but I think he's serviceable. But with the way the roster is constructed now, the trenches, the offensive line, it's just bad, and it's not going to get any better unless we can get some new minds inside the building. Chris Greer's not going to do it. His offensive straightforward style is not built. So we're losing the only best team. We're losing the only playoff team. Okay, we beat San Fran too. They're beat up. They're not a bad team. They're just beat up. And if we can't beat the Buffalo, the Baltimore, the Kansas City, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Because if we can beat up on the bad teams and in some way sneak into the playoffs, what hope do we have if we can't beat anybody good, especially on the road or in the cold?
And that's my thing. And it's like, I've been a lifelong Dolphins. I'm 48 years old. I've seen it back and forth. Everyone wants to talk on the last year, 70 points against Denver. All I saw was a Wildcat year. That was the Wildcat year for us. And again, what we're doing, we're just spending our goods, make it to the first round, we get blown out. So it's like, I just want to see hopes that will change. I was looking for another rebuild. I just hope, like, when they do it, they get somebody. I miss Dan Campbell. I wish we kept Dan Campbell. Todd Bowles over in Tampa. Look what he's doing with Baker Mayfield. We had those guys, and look what they're doing. And all these draft picks that Chris Greer's made, it's like, okay, you get them, come on, my good, but we can't keep them out. So what do we go to free agency and we overpay, and what do we get out of it? 9-8, 8-9, we can 15, 16, and now we're stuck.
Yeah, that's true. There's nothing worse than being right there in the middle, because middle begets middle begets middle begets middle, and you just kind of stay in that same rut. 305-567-0560, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Neil. I'm calling from Hayward, California. I'm the guy who's got the season tickets there.
Missed you today, Neil.
Man, I sold my tickets. I was going to actually give them to my niece and nephew so they could go down there and see the game. But I'm like, I won't travel at Christmas anymore. I did that 2 years ago when we played the Packers, and I was one of those people that got stuck in that whole Southwest Airlines debacle. It took me like a week to get home.
Ooh.
So I won't do that anymore. But, this was one of those games where I know a lot of 49. I live in the Bay Area, and I have to tolerate this stuff. People driving around with 49er flags on their trucks, and all the fan base here listening to the radio. It's like those guys are, and they're such crybabies now. And it's like, listening to Joe Rose the other day, he's saying like, you guys got nothing to cry about. You were in the Super Bowl last year. You can't cry about having a bad season after you lost.
No, historically, since like 1984, they've been one of the most successful teams in the league. Yeah. I don't want to ever hear 49ers fans crying. And they got caught cheating a couple times, too. Now I mentioned that, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you, I'm 60 years old, and I became a Dolphin fan when I was 8, 1972. And, like, I was the little kid who just took, like, football to a whole new level. I was like a savant when it came to football. I knew every player on every team and the scores and the history of football. And that year, when they went undefeated, I didn't get it. I was happy they won. It was an undefeated season, but I didn't realize like that was going to be the heyday. And then they win the next year. And then ever since then, it's just been a dagger in my heart at the end of every season when they don't win it. And believe me, when you see the 49ers win, 5 or 6, and know that, the Dolphins played them here and we didn't show up with the best quarterback ever played and couldn't beat the 49ers. It's been rough. But back to this season, today was a great day because we beat that Niner team. It feels good because I don't have to worry about those guys bragging for a little while because they know I'm a Dolphins fan and they just give me a ton of crap. But in terms of next year, I just hope that it's not Chris Greer doing our draft picks. We got to be really careful with free agency. We can't do another ODB debacle. We got to get like the right players, and we got to focus on the offensive line because I think if we have an offensive line, we can run, and that'll set up the passing.
That seems like the answer. That offensive line needs to be addressed very seriously. Keep the defensive line tough and strong. Neil, fly that Dolphins flag high in San Francisco Bay Area because you guys earned it with the big win and your fandom since 1972 as a 6-year-old. One more phone call, 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, what's up, Dan? Thank you for letting me on, man. My name is Pete, born and raised in Miami, and just wanted to call in today's show. Shout out to all of you guys. And by the way, man, happy Christmas week to all of you guys there, all on the show, each and every single last one of you. I mean, you, Robert, as well, Dan, Dave, Tobin, Leroy, all of the guys over there, man. Appreciate all the work you guys bring in. My name is Pete again, by the way. And you know what I wanted to call in today and say?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, all your callers just had my head spinning all over the place, by the way. So I kind of lost my main focus of the point that I was going to bring. But I just wanted to give a big shout-out to Liam Eichenberg.
Yeah.
I want to give a big shout-out to Teron Armstead.
Yeah.
I mean, the big guy, Aaron Brewer, our offensive line has been getting scrutinized for so long. And for those guys to come out today and have 100... I mean, Jeff Wilson was springing through.
Yeah.
These big guys up front are making that. Did you guys notice Tua only took one quarterback hit, no sack? And everybody wants to cry about, and that last caller, he's complaining about Chris Greer. I mean, everybody wants, Chris Greer extended Jason Sanders. Look at this guy with 5 field goals today.
Jason Sanders, if you can get it onto your part of the field, he is going to make the field goal, unless it's an extra point. He is going to make that field goal. Doesn't matter if it's anything within 60 yards. It just seems like it's automatic. He has been unbelievable, pretty much for me, ever since that Dallas Cowboys game. You're going to miss some here and there, but yeah, no, he's been great. He's been absolutely great.
100%. And shout out to number 4. His name is going to have to be coming out on highlight reels pretty soon because Cater Kohu ended that game. Chop Robinson with the deflection and the goal line, Dan.
Yeah.
That we could consider him that we won the game because of Chop.
Cater Kohu, Chop Robinson.
The guy was wide open. That was a touchdown. He just, deflected. That was an easy touchdown to Kittle.
And there were times you could see even the announcers and the TV was focusing in. They're like, "Watch out, Chop Robinson. He knows they're passing. He's going to be coming off the edge." You could just feel it. You could see it in Chop Robinson's eyes, and that's why you got to be patient with these guys sometimes. You know, at the beginning of the season, people were saying, "Oh, he never gets there. He just gets close." But he's getting there now. And the same thing happened with Jalen Phillips years ago. No production. He's not doing anything. And then midway through the season, the game slows down and they get a little bit better. So, yeah, those guys do deserve some credit. And, you know, Chris Greer, he may miss on some guys. All GMs miss on guys. He may hit on some guys. All GMs usually hit on some guys. It's the construction and the overall production that I think a lot of people are worried about with this organization and the picks.
Nah, I'm starting. You know what, Dan Day? I'm starting to realize, like, our team feels like, I mean, the Cheetah. I know the Penguin didn't play today. I mean, imagine if he did, what we would have saw. But other than that, I mean, I just feel like the Cheetah, the Penguin, they're just two wild animals held back in a cage. We need better arm talent. I mean, we can't have this elite running game. We can't have this elite pass protection, Dan Day, and then not be able to follow up with scores. We just finished winning our last home game of the season, and we're only able to put up, 2 touchdowns? If the NFL kickers didn't exist in the NFL, we'd probably lose this game today. We need better quarterback play. It feels like our best guys are being strung down in a cage.
Well,
we need these guys. We have elite guys that we need free out of the cage. And in our reality, I just feel like, come on, Tua.
Jason Sanders went 5 for 5.
Everything around you is elite. The numbers showed it against an elite opponent today in the San Francisco 49ers. And all we got with 160-plus rushing yards, 4 for 12 on third down, Dan.
I know. We've been terrible on fourth down conversions this year.
We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out. But again, I just don't like that the blame goes all over the place. Offensive line, they blame wide receivers. I'm hearing guys call in saying they don't want the Cheetah. They're crying about 3 drops in reality. It's probably 2 drops. That was a slightly underthrown pass into the end zone that should have been a tad bit further, and that would have been a touchdown. Now they want to cry, and I hear it. Dan,
a couple times Cheetah
right now
did have to leave his feet a couple times for passes today. Tua hasn't been as sharp as he was last year. Now, is that scheming? Is that his arm strength? Is that the receivers? I don't know. He has not looked as sharp. A lot of times, Tyreek is having to leave his feet to catch passes. I've noticed that a lot too, but I think it's, everybody. Everybody just needs to step it up and fix it. But yeah, getting back to your point, Jason Sanders went 5 for 5 today, and he accounted for 17 of our 29 points. He had as many points as the San Francisco 49ers had.
You know what? By you just saying that, the NFL should look into removing kickers out of the league at this point. I think they should start removing kickers out of the league at this point and just let it be 4-down football and let them only go for touchdowns, because that's the reality. This guy, Tua, needed every single last penalty and every field goal kick by Jason Sanders to figure out a way to beat up a 49er team.
I will say the 49ers.
All of you guys have a good week. I appreciate you. Stay blessed, okay, guys?
Many Klima.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will say the 49ers bailed out the Dolphins a lot with personal fouls and unnecessary roughnesses. It's just a team that's just grasping at straws right now. But you got to go out there and you got to win that game, and that's what the Dolphins did today, 29-17. Going to take a break. Robert Grieper, Dan Day, going to come back. Maybe some Vladimir Lewis song. We're going to look at some of the stats. We're going to get you some scoreboard. We're going to have our JM Lexus player of the game, and we're going to hear from Mike McDaniel. We got plenty to pack in the next hour and a half. Stay with us. It's Game Day Uncensored on 560 WQAM.
We've made it easy to listen to WQAM. Just download the free Odyssey app to listen to all of our shows live or on demand. Plus, there's the cool Rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime. Get it now and make WQAM your favorite station.
Time for more Game Day Uncensored, Postgame edition on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Feel good win for the Dolphins today, not only because it's right around the holidays, and there's a lot of holidays that are about to happen in this United States and South Florida. Dolphins now get to 7-8. They keep their playoff hopes alive. They win 29-17 against the San Francisco 49ers. That's another reason to feel good against a franchise that has a very long and strong history. The San Francisco 49ers, one that I do not like. They get the win against a team who was also minutes away from winning the Super Bowl last year and lost in overtime to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, you pretty much knocked them possibly out. Yeah, you pretty much knocked them out of the playoff picture. And you did not lose any of the quarters today. You won the first quarter 3-0, tied the second quarter 10-10, won the third quarter 6-0, won the fourth quarter 10-7. You established your run game. You had your pass game going. You seemed like you were the better team throughout. And maybe towards the end of the season, this team is kind of finding their footing. Looked like Tua Tagovailoa, although he has been a little less sharp than he was last year, still looked a little sharper today. Got things going. 22 for 34, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, and important, no interceptions. We know those interceptions really cost the team last week. Devon Achane, he's had a coming out year, although last year, a rookie year was fantastic. He is showing that it is no fluke. He is having no sophomore slump. He is our first 100-yard rusher of the year, 17 carries, 120 yards. He had the big run at the end that just put the game away. He averaged over 7 yards a carry with that one big touchdown. Raheem Mostert had some good catches, had a couple of good runs, 8 carries, 31 yards, almost 4 yards a carry. Jeff Wilson Jr. sighting. He rushed hard, 2 carries, 12 yards. I like the way he runs as always. Alec Ingold, when you needed a first down, hand it to the fullback. Feed the big man. 4 yards on that one carry. No, Jalen Wright. I don't know if that's something you should worry about or not. You did get him in the 4th round. Maybe the offensive line next year. Just saying. More. I know we have Patrick Paul, but still, come on. Receiving, Devon Achane leads receivers in yards and tied for the lead in catches. 6 receptions, 70 yards. Devon Achane's doing it all this year. Jonnu Smith continues his torrid, great end of the season, second half of the season. 6 receptions, 62 yards. Tyreek Hill. He had 3 drops. He had 3 receptions for 29 yards and a touchdown. He did get that touchdown, but I am a little bit like most Dolphins fans right now. Robert Creeper, 3 receptions, 29 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 drops. I want a little more return on my investment.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we need to sell this stock. You know what I mean? If that's what our return on investment is going to be, that's not good.
I wrote it in my notes. At one point in the game, Malik Washington, the rookie out of Virginia, is looking a little bit better than Tyreek Hill. Malik Washington's numbers were right there with Tyreek Hill. 3 receptions, 28 yards instead of 29 yards, although he did not have that touchdown, but he does give you a little boost on special teams. Raheem Mostert, I told you, he caught a couple of passes. 2 passes caught for 15 yards. River Craycraft caught 1. He also dropped 1. That was a problem. River Craycraft late in the game drops a pass that could have been a first down. And Durham Smythe, tight end number 2, or really number 3, getting in there, 1 reception for 5 yards. And you got to really give kudos to the defense. Zach Sealer got another sack today. Chop Robinson got another sack today, and he was just a messing up that backfield and giving Brock Purdy all types of fits throughout the day. Calais Campbell got the big hit on Brock Purdy as he released the ball, and Cater Kuhu caught that interception. Benito Jones so close to that interception. I thought it was good. You said there's no.
Yep. It's not good. Yeah, what does that get you in college with that point average there? Not good. I mean, I'm saying Butarski and Animal House had a better GPA than what he has. I mean, come on. This is how bad it is. I mean, I did mention to you earlier during the game, I go, luckily this is in the first half and not in the second half when you actually need the timeouts, but still, I mean, come on.
Return for 32 yards. That was one punt return, kickoff return, 32 yards. He had some two punt returns, 15 yards. Malik Washington's been a good story this rookie year towards the end. Chop Robinson been a good story towards the rookie year. Of course, we've seen Zach Sealer. He has been great. Calais Campbell playing like he's 10, 12 years younger than he actually is. Devon Achane is having an unbelievable year for the Miami Dolphins. Jonnu Smith, but another guy who's not even quietly having an unbelievable year is kicker Jason Sanders. 5 for 5 today, long of 54 yards. All in all, they counted for 17 points. Now, I know he's missed some extra points, and I know at the beginning of the season, some of his kicks were kind of iffy, but man, lately he is Mr. Get me across the 50-yard line, and I'll get you 3 points at least.
Looks like somebody wants a contract.
What are we going to say? Pay that man? Is that what we say?
Do we need Teddy KGB on this one?
In an overpaid price contract. Let's see how that works out next year. Now, goodness. Yeah, well, at least, Chris Greer didn't miss on Kirk Cousins, at least. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy, 26 for 40 with 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that one interception at the end that sealed the game that Cater Kahoot picked off. He also rushed for 26 yards. He was somewhat elusive, but he had to be because we were all over him. Deebo Samuel was all over the place today, which is what you'd expect from Deebo Samuel, although this year kind of questionable. 5 carries for 25 yards. Patrick Taylor had 8 carries for 24 yards. George Kittle, once again proving why he's one of the best tight ends in the game. He had 8 receptions for 106 yards, and they ran him in all types of motions. Deebo had 7 receptions for 96 yards. Juan Jennings, 4 receptions, 51 yards. Ricky Pearsall, good story, got shot, came back, and he had a rough play that cost him a touchdown, but he did catch 4 passes for 37 yards. All in all, Dolphins just look like the better team today. Straight up, no lies. And the numbers maybe don't show it as much. Looks kind of even in some ways, but I'll tell you where they really, really, really put San Francisco in a cramp hold. The Dolphins had 166 overall rushing yards. San Francisco, 81. Third down efficiency, 4 for 12. Dolphins. San Francisco, 5 for 13. 2 teams that looked very similar. 2 teams that had very high expectations going into the season have possibly not lived up to those expectations and have dealt with an injury bug and some question marks. That's how you get a game like this. 29-17, Dolphins win. Feel good. You stay alive. Up next, going to get you a quick scoreboard. Of course, we're still going to get to our Jay and Lexus player of the game, and we are going to hear from Coach Mike McDaniel, maybe one of the players from the locker room, maybe even from Vladimir Lewisall. That's all on the way here on Gameday Uncensored, 560 WQAM.
WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Back on Game Day Uncensored, it was a matchup of Tua Tagovailoa versus Brock Purdy. You can join us on YouTube and Twitch. On YouTube, Dolphin Don asks, question for the fam. Would you trade Tua for Purdy? Even Steven, I have stood by this since day one. Since day one, even going into this game, I said, we'll see how it plays out. Not a second would I ever trade Tua Tagovailoa for Brock Purdy. I don't believe Brock Purdy is that good. I believe Brock Purdy hangs in a system. For a while, I thought Tua was part of the system, too. We now know Tua is not so much a system guy. Brock Purdy was a third-string quarterback that took over a team that was already top in the NFC and kept them at the top. That means something, but if you ask me, no way do I ever trade Tua Tagovailoa for Brock Purdy. And Grieper, I see that you're kind of agreeing with.
Oh, that's a given. It's not even close between the two of them. If you put Tua in that system over in San Francisco, they would have won a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. The way I look at it is that they are so – Tua's accuracy is so much better, and he's a winner. The problem is that, unfortunately, he does not have the surrounding cast. If you put him on a team right now, you gave him CMC, you gave him Deebo Samuel, you gave him George Kittle, and that offensive line when it was healthy. Trent Williams out there. That system would have been perfect for him.
I wavered on this. I keep Tua Tagovailoa. That's not me being a homer. That's not me being a Dolphin fan. That's me being real. I would keep Tua Tagovailoa, and that's what you saw today. Even though Purdy's numbers were better, you saw that Tua won because I think deep down inside Tua is the better quarterback. While we're doing that, though, let's get some quick scores that I promise you going around the league. Cowboys. You know, they've been middling for a while. They're playing the Buccaneers right now, and the Cowboys, of course, are winning. It's almost halftime. The Buccaneers just scored a touchdown, but the Cowboys are up 20-13. It's about to be 20-14. Dallas, it doesn't count. Count them in. Of course, most of the scores have gone. The rest of the scores have gone to final today, but it is now officially 20-14. The Cowboys lead Tampa Bay. That Baker Mayfield is tricky, man. Never sleep on Baker Mayfield. Never sleep on Baker Mayfield. Some of the early.
Well, that's because he sleeps in the stadium. Woo!
The Bears. If I told you, Griep, at about 9 a.m. this morning, Lions Bears, is there any need to watch this game outside of fantasy or gambling?
None.
You would absolutely be right. 34-17, which pretty much would have been the score you'd have predicted. Lions win 34-17. Cardinals Panthers. Nothing to really watch, although Kyler Murray's fun and exciting. Yeah, they got some good pieces on them. Well, they weren't good enough today in overtime. The Panthers. Chuba Hubbard breaks the run, and the Panthers beat the Cardinals 36-30. Talk about hurting your playoff chances.
I think that actually eliminated the Cardinals from playoffs today. Yeah. And they also broke their 4-game losing streak, the Carolina Panthers.
The Rams and the Jets. The Jets have been playing better as of late. I actually watched the Aaron Rodgers Enigma documentary last night. Have to admit, great documentary, but I'm into all that alternative lifestyle type stuff and sports at the same time. Aaron Rodgers, he leaves some facts out in that documentary. Nonetheless, if you get a chance, Enigma is good. I know you're a Green Bay Packers fan.
Well, I'm kind of wondering what is he going to do after the end of this season, because, the Darkness Retreat didn't work out very well this year.
A lot of video from the Darkness Retreat. Jordan Poyer or Dolphins owners at that Darkness or at that ayahuasca retreat. Not the best look for Jordan Poyer. I was kind of embarrassed half the time when I saw that. Nonetheless, I would never let someone videotape me doing something personal like that. I'm not judging it. Actually, I think it's pretty cool. Nonetheless, Aaron Rodgers needs to take a little more ayahuasca because the Jets reverted back to being the Jets today, and they got beat by the Rams 19-9, and the Jets kind of looked really dopey the whole time. Greatest game, biggest surprise of the day, maybe the most interesting game of the day. The Eagles and the Commanders. It's in Maryland. Eagles look like they're world beaters the first series and a half of the game. They score a touchdown, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts gets concussed. And he looked concussed. And then he's trying to tell the referee, I'm good. No, I'm good. Whoop! Gets the hook. Kenny Pickett, what does the coach do? You might not like Nick Sirianni. You're not the best quarterback in the world. But how can we take away some of your deficiencies? Oh, Saquon Barkley, run the rock. Well, lo and behold, the Eagles still look decent. But then again, there's that Jaden Daniels, LSU, goes out there, and he's just a hard-to-stop guy. Commanders, hang in there. Get the ball at the end of the game with 6 seconds left. Jaden Daniels throws a pass, touchdown. The Commanders beat the Eagles, although it is with Kenny Pickett and not Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley was playing. Commanders beat the Eagles 36-33. Bengals Browns, once again, 9 a.m. this morning. Reaper, any interest in watching that game?
None, especially with who's quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns right now.
Dorian Thomas, whatever.
Hopefully he's out there for the Browns next week.
Oh, please, give us DTJ or whatever his name is. Don't put Jameis out there because let you get the good Jameis, and you know how that goes. And the score is about what you'd have predicted. Bengals beat the Browns 24-6. Joe Burrow passes for over 250 yards and 3 touchdowns for something like the 100th game in a row. I don't know the exact stats. Colts, you just can't get rid of the Colts. They're whooping the Titans. The Titans try to make a comeback. And then for some reason, Mason Rudolph at the end of the game just throws it away to the Colts. The Colts do defeat the Titans 38-30. Thought maybe Titans could do us a favor. Nope. Colts survive. We still need the Colts to lose another game. Vikings, Seahawks. This was one of the great games of the day if you were watching it. It was a back-and-forth affair against 2 really good teams. They both looked like they were up to the task. And the Vikings continue to look really, really good. Something else, if you're a Dolphins fan, that might hurt a little bit late in the game. Big-time sack by Andrew Van Ginkel to kind of help push the Vikings past those Seahawks. Vikings 27, Seahawks 24. Bills Patriots, believe it or not, back and forth. Patriots take a 14-0 lead at the beginning of the second. But the Bills, they're the Bills this year. And you know what? Josh Allen doesn't have to have good numbers because he's worried about one number at the end. That is the scoreboard. But once again, do what you got to do now, Josh Allen. Nobody cares. It's what you do against old Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. We don't question your talent. We definitely don't question that if you can or can't win the AFC East because we know that. We don't question whether you can beat us. You got us. But we question not your regular season record against Patrick Mahomes. Once again, in the postseason. 3-1 regular season, 0-4 postseason. 4-1 regular season. 0-4 postseason against Patrick Mahomes.
Bills are going to Bills. Regular season champions. Postseason, not so much.
Long time ago. Win the game that counts. Win the game that's most important. Raiders. Look at the Raiders doing what they have to do. Oh, they did it against the Jaguars. Never mind. Raiders beat the Jaguars 19-14. And tomorrow night, Monday Night Football from the frozen tundra of Green Bay, Lambeau Field, the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints.
Love versus Rattler.
Yeah. New Orleans Saints, if you're not paying attention, and I'm barely paying attention anymore now because I'm all in on the Dolphins with these games. They have Spencer Rattler, their backup quarterback, in right now because Derek Carr is hurt. They also have Darren Rizzi, their backup coach, in because they fired their other coach. Darren Rizzi, though, special teams coach here in Miami, much beloved. He's actually got the team playing in a good direction. I did talk to some Saints fans, some of my guys back in New Orleans the other day, and they go, we like Darren Rizzi, but we don't want the Saints to play all that well because then we might get stuck with Darren Rizzi. I was like, you don't want Darren Rizzi? No, that's not the way it's going to be. But Packers should win pretty solidly, playing a warm weather team like the New Orleans Saints with a backup quarterback, an interim head coach in the frozen tundra, Jordan Love. They are the better team than the Saints. I do see tomorrow night Packers getting a win over those Saints. I know, Reaper, you got a lot on the line with that also.
Yeah, go Pack go on that one.
Don't discount the Saints. Don't discount the Saints. Don't discount our Miami Dolphins who got another win today. 7-8. It feels like It has been a roller coaster of a ride this year, but after all that's been said and done, you're right around 500 with a chance with two very winnable games to end the season at 9-8. And who knows? Who knows? We're going to come back. We're going to give you our JM Lexus player of the game. We're also going to hear from Mike McDaniel, maybe Devon Achan. I know a lot of you guys loving Devon Achan for what he's doing, not only for your Miami Dolphins, but for your fantasy teams, that and more. Got one more hour of Game Day Uncensored on 560 WQAM.
HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Game Day, Uncensored, Post-Game Edition. Recapping the Fins game. Real reaction, real opinions, real talk for real fans. That sounds amazing. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by South Florida Lexus Dealers. Experience amazing by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka on game day? Pour me in, coach. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Make sure your next Cadillac is backed by Morse at Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Proud partner of the Miami Dolphins. By JM Lexus. At JM Lexus, you'll always get the home team advantage. And by Williamson Automotive. Williamson is Miami.
Gameday and Robert Grieper with you. Post-game celebration. Dolphins taking down the San Francisco 49ers 29-17. I am from that school that you try to win everything no matter what. Every single game does not matter because for a lot of reasons. Number one, winning becomes part of your culture. It becomes infectious. It becomes something that you start to expect to do. Also, you never know where it could lead. This team is still alive in the playoff hunt. We're going to get into the playoff scenarios, although they are very long. But you never know what could happen. Crazy things happen in this world, and it could be the beginning of a beautiful run. Another thing, when it comes to positives for winning whatever games you possibly could, maybe you end this season on a 3-game win streak, and that momentum and that attitude propels you into next season. And next season maybe is the one that is super special. Now, I know if you're somebody that's a naysayer, or maybe you had a couple of Stella Artois around the tailgate or around the house, you're saying these wins are causing more problems than they are good. Number one, we win, we finish strong. That means they're going to keep Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel next year. And I don't believe this is the right organization for those two guys. It's not a good fit. Another thing is these wins continue to put you towards mediocrity because you are already kind of middle of the road. Your record shows it. You probably won't make the playoffs, and you also won't probably get a very good draft pick. I understand the people that say, look, these wins are not all that good. I know it's a double-edged sword. I know there's both sides to it. But in the end, I really do believe that winning the games that you have in front of you, as much as you possibly can, is good for the organization. It's good for the program. It feels good for the fan base. I do also understand that sometimes, like Rosie Perez says, in White Man Can't Jump, sometimes you lose, but you really win. And then sometimes you win, but you really lose. And then sometimes you don't win or lose, but you win. It's like, yeah, I understand. There's a lot that goes with it, but I just say win all you can and let it all sort out in the wash.
And also, she's an expert on foods that start with the letter Q, as we all know. But exactly. But the biggest problem is, and a lot of Dolphin fans would say right now, is it doesn't matter where you're drafting if the same person's making those draft picks.
A winning streak, albeit a 3-game winning streak, you finish the season with a winning record, maybe I'm trying to use the right word. I know the word I want to use, but maybe the infection, you're not getting rid of the infection. You're keeping the infection, which is going to continue to fester and grow. So the person that's putting together this team, the organization of this team, could cause some problems, could be an issue. I don't know. I just think, let's just win and try to figure things out. Let's go through those playoff scenarios. The Ravens did win yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're in. Everyone is in the AFC with the exception of the last 2 spots. And there's a few teams besides the Dolphins that can get into those last 2 spots. The Dolphins must win out. These are their scenarios. They have to win out. So they do have to beat the Browns next week, and they do have to beat the New York Jets. Although that's looking easier and easier. Although they played us pretty tight here. That's looking easier and easier after seeing what they did against the Rams today. And then you're going to be battling with the Colts, who have the tiebreaker against you. So if you finish with a 9-8 record and they finish with a 9-8 record, they have got you beat because they won the tiebreaker. But today the Colts hold on to a 38-30 win over Tennessee. Their last 2 games, the Giants and the Jaguars. Creeper, is there an easier route to getting to 9-8 than the Giants and the Jaguars.
It couldn't get much easier than those two teams right now. That both of them are with backup quarterbacks right now, and there's no light at the end. Neither one of those teams want to win right now either.
New York Giants, Jacksonville Jaguars. That's how the Colts are finishing their season. Backup quarterback, garbage teams. That's one team. Chargers, they have to lose the rest of their games, which is 2 more games. And then, of course, you also have to have the Colts lose a game. Chargers get the Patriots and the Raiders. I'm going to ask you again, Grieber, does it get much easier than having to play the Patriots and the Raiders for the last 2 games of the year to try to clinch playoff games?
There's another 2 teams that do not want to win. They want those draft picks.
Albeit, the Raiders did win today, and the Patriots gave Buffalo all they could handle. So maybe the Chargers have a little tougher route than the Colts. When it comes to the Broncos now, Broncos need to lose their final 2 games, and the Colts need to also lose a game. Broncos do get the Bengals, and they do get the Chiefs in the last week. So the Bengals are actually in the playoff hunt. They've been winning a lot of their games. They're playing in Cincinnati next week. So that is a losable game for the Broncos in a playoff game where both teams, quote-unquote, still have skin in the game. Here's where it gets tough. You say the Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs have only lost 1 game this year. But why, Grieper, would the Broncos be excited to play the Chiefs, who may be a 1-loss team going into January 5th?
Because they're going to be resting players in that game.
Because if they get the number 1 seed, they're already going to have the off week. So the point of being like, oh, we don't want to get rusty. Well, you're already going to have that off week. So you basically already have off 2 weeks. And I've talked about this. Andy Reid is one of those, I don't know if it's old school or if it's just a theory, and it seems to work. So he plays his guys. Preseason, I remember first preseason game. Nobody's playing their guys like all the Kansas City Chiefs starters were playing. Now, granted, maybe a quarter,
right,
maybe a series or 2. But I could see Andy Reid going in with the 1 seed locked up and still playing Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the defense for a quarter. I don't know if it's something he's instilling in them, but it works because they've been the best team for a while now in the NFL. But still, yes, you got to feel good if you're the Broncos and you go into week 18 or 19, 18, and you have a chance to play a Chiefs team that could be resting their players. But yeah, long odds, but look, win what you can win, take it from there.
The toughest one for me is the Colts losing is the way I look at it. That one's the toughest one because you put yourself into that position when you lost that game to the Colts that you should have won earlier this year. Is that one is, I think, the toughest one out of all of them is for them to lose those games. So then that way, you get the wins from the other teams and then you'd be okay. But unfortunately, those Colt ones, I don't see it happening. I just don't.
Where you lose 16-10. That is a game where Tyler Huntley started. He had 87 yards and a touchdown. Tim Boyle relieved him after getting hurt. Tim Boyle had 74 yards. And if you remember, Tim Boyle's last pass as a Miami Dolphin was about 8 feet behind.
Way out of bounds.
Tim Boyle's playing though now. He's with the Giants, just heaving the ball because Drew Lock is even worse than Tommy DeVito. Goodness, but you get a win day, and Devon Achane, unbelievable. He's the first Dolphins player to have 500 receiving yards and over 500 rushing yards in one season. Jonnu Smith continues his great year as a tight end, historic year for the Miami Dolphins. The most receptions ever by a Miami Dolphin tight end in a single season. I think he has 75 on the year, and most yards by a tight end on the season. Tua today got his 100th career touchdown pass. He threw it to Tyreek Hill in the second quarter. It gave us a 13-7 lead with about 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Tyreek Hill seemed to have some issues catching the ball, but he did make a few catches here and there, and he did get that touchdown catch, and it was enough. The defense continued to play very well. I thought you got to give kudos to all the guys on the defensive end because Chop Robinson, Zach Sealer, they're good for a sack a game. In fact, some people at this radio station started to bet a little parlay for a little Chop and Zach Sealer 1 sack a game, and it seems to be hitting. It did hit again today. The Jalen Ramsey, he's holding up the walls back there. He's an all-pro. That's the bad thing about being a cornerback. You're going to be on an island. And every once in a while, you're going to get beat. And, when you get beat, everybody notices it. And then when you don't get beat, everybody's like, oh, they're doing their job. But for the most part, I think Jalen Ramsey has done a really good job with this team and this team's defense. With Anthony Weaver has been very, very, very good. The run game got going today. Devon Achane, the first 100-yard rusher in a game this season for the Miami Dolphins. He didn't look like Raheem Mostert started kind of getting his stuff together today, which was good to see and hopefully is a good sign of things to come. Maybe people are getting a little more healthy. Teron Armstead, Alec Ingold, that could help the rushing game. Jeff Wilson Jr. had 2 rushes for 12 yards. I thought he looked strong in those rushes. Did not see Jalen Wright. You hate to do that. A couple of drops here and there, but for the most part, I thought the Miami Dolphins were just the better team today. And that's what you want your team to be. You go out there and be the better team. You're going to give up some points most likely. You're going to make some mistakes. There's going to be some penalties. But if you're overall, pound for pound, the better team as you watch the games, that's what you look for. And for me, it's always a little extra sweet to beat up on San Francisco 49ers, who have been in the NFC Championship game lately almost every year. They've been in the Super Bowl a couple of times over the years. Those Joe Montana, Jerry Rice days, they took no pity on anyone. Therefore, I will never be ashamed or feel bad for the San Francisco 49ers. And Brock Purdy, once again, had a big day numbers-wise. Still, I'm riding with Tua Tagovailoa over Brock Purdy, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, though. Kyle Shanahan, I will say this. I watched, as you did, Grieper, the game. Kyle Shanahan can call some plays on offense, man.
Yeah, he can. And you can see where, he is a offensive guru, as they like to say. I mean, he does a great job with what he has, and now it doesn't hurt to have Kittle and Samuel out there. I mean, come on. I mean, those two are probably two of the best of their position right now. The thing that you notice with Samuel kind of does what the Dolphins want to do with their wide receivers is to be able, and they actually do with Achane as a running back, is to be able to be like that Swiss Army knife, to be able to give you that running game, that passing game all at the same time. And it's amazing to watch. It really is, because they were the first ones to innovate that. If you remember when Debo was doing that, everybody's like, oh, we need to get a Debo too. That was the way everybody wanted to be. And, I think they finally have that in Achane, obviously, is that type of guy who could get it to you out of the backfield, get it to you in the flats, give you that yak, that everything that he gives you is just amazing. The problem is that until this offensive line was settled, if you noticed, you weren't getting that. Today, the offensive line actually did their job. They settled things in there. And I think that did open things up for Achane and made him so productive today.
But healthier, and they're not as their knees don't lock up and they're not hurt. Things go a little bit smoother. It's like, well, why was it so okay? Why was the running game so effective today and not other weeks? Well, you don't have Jackson Carman coming off the couch and doing blocking. You've got Teron Armstead doing some blocking. And why did Liam Eichenberg look better today? Well, he's got backup like Teron Armstead and some of the other guys. Isaiah Wynn, he's got some of those guys in there.
Yeah, it helped out to have both Armstead and Lamb out there starting on as your bookends there. That was huge. Robert Jones had some bad penalties today, as you noticed as well. But to have the rest of, have those bookends out there really helped settle that offensive line down. And you could see that because Mostert was productive, Achane was productive, Tua wasn't on his ass all day. It made things so much better for him and gave Tua the time that he needed to make the plays that he did.
Front, you give your quarterback more time, you give your receivers more time to develop routes, you give your running game more time, opens up the play action. Yeah, we need to address the offensive line in the offseason. And I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. We still got 2 more games. But yeah, that offensive line, when I'm not going to even say clicking, when I'm saying that it's doing its job, man, this team just seems like they are forced to be reckoned with, and you'd like to see it consistently throughout the season. What could have been in those games, it is what it is. Everyone's dealing with injuries. You're not going to get pity from anyone. And once again, like they say in every pro sport, there are no cheap wins. Don't ever say, oh, well, we beat up on a San Francisco 49ers team that didn't have Christian McCaffrey and this, and Brock Purdy's coming out. Nope. There are no cheap wins in the NFL, in the NBA, in the MLB, in the MLS, any professional sport, no such thing as a cheap win. Today was a good win for the Miami Dolphins, 29-17. Up next, we're going to give you our JM Lexus Player of the Game, and we're also going to hear from Mike McDaniel. This is Game Day Uncensored on 560 WQAM.
rewind feature and listen to anything you missed. Hurry!
Time for more Game Day Uncensored, post-game edition on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
It feels good not only to get a good win, 29-17 against the San Francisco 49ers. It feels good that now we're doing the JM Lexus Player of the Game, and I've got options. I've got a lot of ways to go. A lot of times this year, Grieper, it's been like, who do you want? You want Zach Sealer or Calais Campbell? Who do you want? Do you want Devon Achane or do you want Zach Sealer? I mean, it's or Jalen Ramsey or Devon Achane. It's always been one or two guys that you could choose from. Today, there's actually people we could choose from because a lot of people contributed to the win in a lot of different ways for the Miami Dolphins. So let's get to the JM Lexus Player of the Game at JM Lexus. It's the perfect time to catch the deal you've been waiting for. As the Golden Opportunity Sales event continues, don't miss your opportunity to score even more now at JM Lexus. Like I said, there's so many ways I can go. You know, there's obvious ones. There's other ones that are maybe a little less obvious, like Jason Sanders, 5 for 5 today, 17 points in total with those 2 extra points that he kicked. You can also look at Malik Washington as a rookie. He's making a difference, returning kicks. He's also catching passes, maybe catching some end arounds. You can look at all sides of the ball. Maybe Alec Ingold returning. Maybe Teron Armstead simply being there doing some blocking. But I'm going to go with my JM Lexus Player of the Game, Kader Kohou. Why do I go with Kader Kohou? Not because his stats jumped off the screen, not because he just totally shut down one side of the field. It's because I love the stories of the guys who are resilient and the guys who, like we said earlier, they hear the whispers, they hear the rumblings. Kader Kohou, we've seen some games where he hasn't had his best. We all know that Kader got cooked. That's a saying around South Florida sometimes. But today, and I understand that Calais Campbell got a hit on Brock Purdy as he was throwing the pass, but Kader Kohou came up with the game-clinching interception. And to look at how happy not only Kader Kohou was, but that this Dolphins team, his teammates were around him when he caught that interception. It almost seemed like it was cathartic, not just for Kader Kohou, but for the rest of this Dolphins team. Like, wow, maybe things are starting to break good for this team. With everything that we've been through this year, that interception, which was led by one of the captains, like I said, Calais Campbell getting the hit, but Kader Kohou being in the right place at the right time and making the catch, you could see the relief, you could see the excitement, and you could see just the redemption of all that hard work really paid off. And maybe it's a turning point in this team that all this hard work and all this up and down, maybe, just maybe, it's now starting to pay off and we could finish this season, maybe not with a magical run, but with a run that is something special, at least for our team, maybe for the future going forward. I don't know. Maybe it'll be special. That's why I picked Kader Kohou. Robert Grieber, who do you have as your JM Lexus Player of the Game?
You know, I actually like the Kohou one just because, you know, after Fuller went down, that made it even more impressive of what he did at that point in the game. But I'm going to go with the easy one. It's too easy. Achane is the guy. I mean, if you look at majority of the offense went through him between receiving, rushing, scoring, he was the guy. And he is that guy that just makes the Dolphins offense purr, if you think about it. And it's just amazing to watch that guy out there, what he has done. It's even more amazing considering this is the first game that he actually got over 100 yards rushing. Came close multiple times this year. Yeah. So if you think about it, the amount of offense that he has had this year on receiving, rushing, he does it all. And where would this offense be without him right now? But I'm going to definitely give it to him today just because he was the straw that stirred the drink.
.120. He got a touchdown that really sealed the game. He averaged over 7 yards a rush. He led the team, or was tied to lead the team in receptions with 6, along with Jonnu Smith, and he led the team in receiving yards with 70. He also became the first Dolphins player ever to go over 500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards in a season. If you don't get a JM Lexus Player of the Game for that, whew, then you got a team there. You got a team there. So yeah, Devon Achane, to be honest, a strong argument can be made that he's been the best player on this team this year. I know there's other guys out there, but day in and day out, no matter whatever he's asked to do, he just seems to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you could always go into, well, what did he do when Tua was out? What did the Dolphins offense do when Tua was out? You know, that was one of those things that if you look at this team, when Tua was out earlier in the year, the offense was non-existent. There was nothing else going on with that offense. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of Dolphin fans will look at that and say, if we actually had a legitimate backup quarterback during that time, we'd probably be in the playoffs right now. And unfortunately, you know, as one of our callers said beforehand, if our aunt had a different set of biology, we would be our uncle. That's kind of where you're at right now. Unfortunately, you can't look back. You got to look forward and see where it is right now. And you're in the situation you're in because of where you are. And so you have to play with what you have right now. You're looking on being out of the playoffs right now. And unfortunately, you could only look ahead as, you know, Mario Cristobal said all this year with the Canes, we're 1-0 going to next week.
We're also going to hear from Coach Mike McDaniel. Final segment of Game Day Uncensored on the way, 560 WQAM.
games, and more can be heard on the free Odyssey app. Don't miss out. Download it today and make WQAM your favorite station.
Time for more Game Day Uncensored, post-game edition on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Barry Gibb and the Bee Gees sang it best when they said, staying alive, staying alive. The Dolphins stay alive today with a win against those San Francisco 49ers, 29-17. Really just kind of outclassed them all day. Mike McDaniel spoke with the media post-game. Maybe some good, maybe some bad, maybe some still alive in the playoffs. He makes sense. He made Mike McDaniel.
Well, I think it was important to a lot of guys to collectively have an effort when we knew, if you're hanging on to a team because you believe in it as players, this is the time that you find success is in an adverse situation where most may quit. So, been a long season, but it was probably the validation of why we've really been putting so much into this team and why we've been fighting for it to the season to stay alive, because I think there's been a lot of learning lessons, tough ones at that. And we've been waiting for a 3-phase game that I think we had today. So, that's why you get into sports, is for a validation of that. And the season's not over to our team. And so we live to fight another day and look forward to building upon that against Cleveland.
This is the franchise's 5th straight winning record at home. Obviously, you guys have had more struggles on the road. Is the next step figure out how to replicate what you're doing here and travel with it?
Well, I think it's important to, part of the reason why the team put itself in position to win today is because, there's a lot in football that may be correlation, not causation. So that all the things that you haven't done, if you really look at it with a fine-tooth comb, that yes, naturally you have to win in all atmospheres and against all different opponents and different. But the bigger thing is when you're trying to play football so that in the inevitable situation that you face every season, that's an elimination game, whether it's to get in the playoffs or it's in the playoffs, you want to be tooled with a team that can succeed or execute in those type of situations. So I think the list is long when you're talking about all the things that this team has to do that it has yet to do. But the formula is the same. You're in a stadium. There's 2 football teams, and you have to be the best one with the most points that day. And that, I think, that mindset, that for all the stuff to go on during the course of the year, for the naysayers to be aplenty, I was just proud of this effort, and proud of the guys' effort in general. And that gives you a chance to win December football. And you, regardless, unless you're playing in February, you also have to get adept at experiencing that, going through that, having some momentum, and then going back and applying it to the next opponent. Because that's, no one cares about one win in December or January, realistically. It's about accumulating those. So I was happy it kind of met what I had hoped for. The biggest thing was that we played some complimentary football, and when we did have an offensive penalty that resulted to a field goal attempt as opposed to a touchdown, we executed on that. When we needed to get a stop at the end of the game, we got a pick. There's when they got down in the tight red, more often than not, we kept them to field goals. All of those things as a winning formula.
Like Tyreek earlier said that, when asked about kind of mental lapses on the drops, that the Wednesday reps are starting to show, the vet rest days are starting to show. From your perspective, what are those pros and cons of giving a guy like that vet rest days?
I think you're trying to do an imperfect formula all the time. The good news is that you operate in the key to all of it is communication between our coaching prep and the player, and you're trying to yield the best performance on game day. And the great news is when a player on Sunday can feel the rest in a negative way, then you adjust. And if that was, that it's whenever it hits a player and they feel that it has accumulated, then you adjust your plans because the idea is above all else, executing and feeling as convicted and confident on game day. So there's always pros and cons with any sort of rest. Shoot, I want every player to play 100% of the practice snaps at full tilt every week. You have an imperfect formula of trying to figure out how to rest guys and what does best for their body. I think that the adjustment to getting more reps with Tua, that's an easy one. What I'll do? I'll say, hey, get more reps, and then they'll do it. But it's the communication aspect, and you hate for guys to feel like they're not properly tooled in any sort of situation. So you just adjust off that and make sure we get better from it, not worse.
How are Kendall Fuller and Jordan Brooks doing?
I'll definitely need more from. It'll be until tomorrow. We'll see on that. I really didn't have a feeling either way. Sometimes you get a feeling that it might. I really didn't have any structural feel to it as they went into the blue tent, and then JB he got hit pretty hard in the lower half, but it wasn't any. It wasn't like a joint or a knee or an ankle. We'll see how long that takes. It was a pretty good shot, though.
Mike, going against your good friend and coaching mentor, Kyle, for the second time winning this one. What was it like, playing that chess game against someone you know so well and to beat him this time?
I was proud of the fact that I literally thought about it 0% of the time. The reason why I say proud is because it's not about me. And the second that I'm thinking about any sort of relationship relative to a coach, I'm not thinking about how to best position players for success. And they're I was really happy for our team to go. It wasn't like the 49ers are going through injuries. That is a good team that does not quit. So to earn something in that way, I thought our guys deserved it and played the way you have to play and committed the way you have to commit to do that. But beyond that, there's a lot of relationships and that are I love that organization and the players and coaches that I have experience with, but I honestly didn't didn't even think about it because I would be lashing myself if I was.
Rotated Liam and Isaiah Wynn tonight. What was the decision behind that, and could you evaluate each player's performance?
I'll have to see the tape first, but I thought overall it was really good to get Isaiah in. You know, the way he's worked to get on the field. Every teammate has watched and witnessed it, and you just kind of careful to not overload someone. So we went into the game planning for Isaiah and Liam to go every 2 series, which I thought had an effective result. You know, the defense line we're going against majors in line changes. They're subbing left and right all over the place. So I thought, you know, we'd render better results in the run and pass game. You know, and I think, you know, both of their executions had to do or partially revealed 0 sacks. He had some good rushing numbers and controlled the line of scrimmage the way we wanted to. And I thought they both did a good job. And we'll see how it kind of grades out play by play tomorrow. Is that Christmas Eve yet? No. Who knows? Tuesday. Got it. Yeah. So on the day before Christmas.
Coach, with Jonnu breaking the team tight end records, you know, how were you and the coaching staff able to unlock this kind of season out of him, and how happy are you with all the hard work that he put in that he's able to become the most productive tight end in Dolphins history?
We'll go to great lengths to avoid passive-aggressive questions at the podium, and I was sick of hearing we need to use the tight end more. No, I think that it's really cool to watch him. You know, it's not like Jonnu started off with a ton of numbers like week 1 or 2. I can't remember the first game that I know that his first touchdown was Indy, I believe. But like, just getting used to his skill set. You know, I know he said I gave him one of the game balls after the game, and he brought John Embry up, said he was the best coach that he's ever had. You know, and just watch those guys gel, figuring out, you know, different things, ways that we can involve him, because he impacts the game. I mean, much like you know, he just impacts the game in a unique way and complements the rest of our players so well, because guys are trying to cover a bunch of space and or eligibles, and then they're a half yard out of position, and Jonnu generally makes them pay. You know, I think he never blinked at the beginning of the season, whether he was and didn't just worried about the right stuff, worried about getting better and being his best. And as a result, he's been a key contributor week in, week out. That I know opposing defenses don't want us to get him the ball. They prefer that. So cool to, you know, see a lot of guys have success that it wasn't just handed to them, but they've earned through the course of a season and not always ideal circumstances.
I'm right there with what Mike McDaniel was saying. I think there's more at play with this Dolphins team than just making the playoffs. I feel as though this team is going to win out the rest of their games this regular season. Don't know if they're going to make the playoffs or not, but there's more to it than that. There's believing in yourself. There's finding ways to win. There's changing narratives. There's getting over mental humps. There's momentum that you're building for the next season. Maybe not because it's the exact same team, but it's the same similar team and a similar organization. I believe that this critical 3-game stretch will be wins, and they will be wins that next year we may be having some post-game shows where we're a lot more happy than we've been this year, and it'll all have dated back to the foundation and the work they did in these final 3 games. But still, got to take care of Cleveland next week around 4 o'clock. We'll be back for the post-game. And then in the final week of the regular season, the New York Jets. That is going to be January 5th, most likely at 1 o'clock. Robert Grieper, do want to say this real quick to you. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Festivus for the rest of us, Krampus. We'll see you before New Year's and all that stuff, but just happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa. And there we go. We're going to do it all.
Do it. Let's end this year on a win streak, and who knows, get the playoffs, maybe some more winning. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll be with you every step of the way for Robert Grieber. I am Dan Day. This has been Game Day Uncensored on 560 WQAM. Later.
This holiday season, bring joy to the road at Edmore